Honorable Premier, ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise and honor the platform party, faculty, and graduates as they enter? Please remain standing until after the invocation has been said and the national anthem and territorial songs have been sung. Thank you.
Dr. the Honorable D. Orlando Smith and Mrs. Smith, Deputy Premier and Minister of Natural Resources and Labor, Dr. the Honorable Kedrick Pickering and Mrs. Pickering, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, Ms. Ingrid Moses Scatliff, Minister of Education and Culture, Honorable Myron V. Wallerin, Minister of Health and Social Development, Honorable Ronnie Skelton, Leader of the Opposition and Representative for the 1st District, Honorable Andrew Foy, Representative for the 2nd District, Honorable Melvin Mitch Turnbull, Representative for the 3rd District, Honorable Julian Fraser, Junior Minister for Trade and Investment Promotion and Representative for the 8th District, Honorable Marlon Penn, Representative for the 9th District, Dr. the Honorable Hubert O'Neill, Permanent Secretaries, other senior public officers, Chairman of the Board of Governors of the H. Lavity Stoutt Community College, Dr. Charles Wheatley, OBE, and Mrs. Wheatley, other members of the Board of Governors of the H. Lavity Stoutt Community College, President, members of the faculty and staff of the H. Lavity Stoutt Community College, other members of the platform, graduating class of 2018, parents, family members, and other guests of our graduates, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, in the name of the Board of Governors, officers, and faculty of the H. Lavity Stoutt Community College, to call the 2018 graduation ceremony to order. Mrs. Andrea Laguerre will now deliver this afternoon's invocation. The invocation will be followed by the national anthem and the territorial song, which will be played by the Jazz Ensemble. Please remain standing for all 3 of these items.
All head bows, all eyes closed, let us pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing us here this afternoon where we, the HLSCC graduates, can celebrate our accomplishments. I thank you for the challenges we faced, the strength you give us each day, the lessons learned, and for turning our struggles into successes. I pray that in all our future endeavors, we remember to put you first, because everything is possible through you. I ask your presence to be with us as we go through this ceremony, and be with those who are on their way to give their support. In your name I pray, amen.
But with strength and willpower came to restore and spread. Ownership of your precious life that you paid in your people.
You may now please be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone. As president of the college, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the 25th graduation ceremony of the HLSCC Stout Community College. I would like to recognize collectively those members of the college's Board of Governors who are able to join us today. Would board members please stand to be recognized? I would like to introduce one person in particular. They are all in your program. The head teacher for the Virgin Islands Secondary School is with us, who's also a member of the board. He was not recognized in the program. My apologies, Mr. I would like to take a brief moment to introduce those persons who share the platform this afternoon. May I ask each person to rise as I introduce them and call them by name. The Honorable Dr. D. Orlando Smith, our Premier. Honorable Myron V. Walwyn, Minister of Education and Culture. As many of you know, this is the minister with responsibility for the colleges. Mrs. V. Inez Archibald, CBE. Mrs. Archibald will be our keynote speaker this afternoon. We will do our best to make her blush when we introduce her a little bit later on. Dr. Charles Wheatley, OBE, is chairman of the HLSCC Board of Governors. Dr. Wheatley is a former president of this institution and is honored to be the only president emeritus of the college. Mrs. Judith Vanterpool, our vice president for academic affairs. Mrs. Vanterpool provides oversight for all things instructional as well as for student affairs. Dr. Laverne Baptiste is registrar for the college. She's also the director of enrollment management and serves as the liaison officer between the college and the accreditation body. Mrs. Marva Wheatley, sitting directly behind Mrs. Vanterpool, is Dean of Arts, Sciences, and General Studies, which is primarily that sector of the instructional programs from which most of the students transfer to study abroad. Because hospitality program reports to Dean Wheatley Dawson, she is also responsible for the short courses in customer service that were recently launched in support of recovery of tourism in the territory. Next to her is Mrs. Bernadine Louie. Dean Louie is the Dean of Workforce Training. She is responsible for the broad range of programs designed to prepare persons for direct entry into the workforce. This includes customized training for business and industries, as well as short courses in professional development and continuing education. Dean Louie is therefore responsible for the short courses we recently offered in construction and the marine fields, also in support of the territory's recovery. Our next platform guest, there she is the representative of the class of 2018 who has been selected to speak on behalf of the class, Mr. Nicoy Stout. You will learn more about Nicoy when he's introduced to speak a little later in the program. You've seen our marshals for the day serving as master of ceremony, Mrs. Stephanie Russ-Penn and Mrs. Lucille Skelton, both of the Math and Science Department. You may remember that Mrs. Russ-Penn was recognized by her colleagues and by students as the Faculty of the Year last year at this ceremony. The honor this year of these two persons carrying the mace and leading the procession is that they were both selected by students, staff, faculty as the employees of the month sometime during the year in our ongoing employee recognition program. In addition to the platform guests, we certainly welcome each and every one of you for joining us to celebrate with all the students who have completed the requirements for their degrees. They will, in a short while, receive our official acknowledgement of their attainment. In the program, you see that I am scheduled to give an address. I promised the graduates that I would be brief. After all, they're here primarily on behalf of and to fill the dreams of the 93 graduates whom I am sure would rather hasten the time to walk across the stage and receive their awards. Traditionally, this has been an occasion on which the President has given an overview of the past year. In the interest of time, and especially because there are few special awards I would like everyone to help me present, I have chosen to highlight some of what we've accomplished this year in the graduation book. You can read that at your leisure. Those awards that I feel privileged to present have to do with the academic accomplishments of two of our students. There are two President's Awards, one that will go to the full-time student with the highest grade point average, and the other to the part-time student with the highest grade point average. Each student would receive a certificate and a check from the college. Please note as well that last school year, as part of our efforts to raise academic standards, members of the President's Cabinet reviewed the grading policy. We recommended to the board following review by the faculty, and the board approved a new grading scale. The new grading scale makes it a little tougher for our students to get higher GPAs, grade point average, or so some of them thought. But we knew that they could, and we knew that they would rise to the challenge. Academic awards this year are presented with that backdrop in mind. Let's start with the full-time student with the highest grade point average. Before I mention the name, the full-time student entered the college in fall of 2016, attended St. George's Secondary School, majored in science, is receiving an Associate of Science degree in General Studies, is a member of the Environmental Club, has a GPA of 3.96, and has had a consecutive grade point average above 3 for the last 5 semesters. This student comes to us from Nigeria in Africa and plans to make applications to medical schools since like his parents, he aspires to become a physician. Please help me welcome Mr. Emmanuel O. Borokini. Mr. Emmanuel's award reads, the full-time student with the highest cumulative grade point average, class of 2018, for your example of dedication, perseverance, and hard work in an effort to further your education while carrying the responsibilities of full-time employment. Our sincere congratulations. The part-time student with the highest grade point average. Our students who attend part-time are equally important to us. Their challenges are often quite different from that of our full-time students. Often they're parents, they're likely to be employed full-time and have families and may be somewhat older. The second President's Award goes to the part-time student in the graduating body with the highest grade point average. She entered the college in 2002. That sounds like a long time, but you'll see. She comes from St. David's Secondary School in Grenada. Her major was business administration. Since she entered, she has had a prior degree at the college in accounting. She earned that degree in 2014. Her grade point average is 3.75, and she has had a grade point average over 3.0 for the last 2 semesters. Please help me welcome Miss Eula Thomas. Eula, are you here? Okay, Eula is not here. Okay, so those are the 2 President's Awards. We have a few other awards as well. We're fortunate to have corporate partners in this community who year after year commit themselves to honoring our deserving students. It has been a difficult year for everyone, including local businesses. However, we're fortunate nonetheless to have 3 such awards this year. One that was provided by Ernst & Young, and 2 scholarships that were provided by Africa Gilberto Arias Frebega. These 2 organizations have supported our students through the scholarships for the past several years. As a top student in accounting, this year's winner of the Ernest Young Award is Miss Stacy Alicia Christopher Smith. Ms. Christopher Smith entered the college in 1991. She came from the BVI, it was then BVI High School. It was then BVI High School, now the Elmore Stout High School. She majored in business and in fact majored in 3 areas: accounting, finance, and small business. She's maintained a grade point average of 3.0 for 12 consecutive semesters, and now has a grade point average. She's graduating a grade point average of 3.0. Ms. Christopher Smith is a citizen of the BVI, and she plans to further her studies in management and accounting. I'll tell you a little bit about the award that's just been given to her. That was Mrs. Maria Hopkins representing Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young is passionate about helping young people achieve their full potential. In fact, they describe this passion as one of the core values of the company. Their motto is, building a better working world. Many years ago, Ernst & Young established the Ernst & Young Achievement Award for Academic Excellence to recognize and award the highest achievers in Cayman Islands high schools and colleges. They've since established the same in the BVI. The award, as you saw, consists of a plaque for academic excellence and a check for $1,000. The recipient of this award also has an opportunity to apply for an Ernst & Young scholarship to further their studies in the area of accounting. Ernst & Young have assured us that they will continue to support a deserving accounting student by presenting this award each year as long as they're in operation in the BVI. The next award is the Arifa Gilberto Arias Frebega Book Scholarship. This year, the Arias Book Scholarship, as we call it, was targeted toward a student majoring in science. On the basis of an application that includes the writing of an essay, an award is made to 1 or more students who will be continuing their studies at a university. 2 scholarships instead of 1 were provided this year. One will go to a student that's graduating today, and the other will go to a student who made a decision to transfer to a university before earning an associate degree. Our full-time graduating student receiving the Africa Gilberto Arias Fabrega Book Scholarship entered the college in 2015. She attended Elmore Stout High School. Her major is science. She's a member of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and she's a senior team member of the VI Archery Association. Her grade point average is 3.65. She's a citizen of the BVI, and she's been accepted at Lee University in Tennessee to study biology. That student is Miss Rebecca Jossel. I'm sorry, that's the full-time, the full-time student is Jermaine Liebert, I'm sorry. Switch them around. So that was Mr. Liebert, that was just Dr. Okay. Our other student who is not graduating this year because they made the decision to transfer is Ms. Jossel. She entered the college in 2016 as a dually enrolled student. She was attending the Elmore Stout High School. She completed 41 of roughly 60 credits. She's a member of the Environmental Club, has a grade point average of 3.60, is also a BVI lander, and has been accepted at Brigham Young University in Utah to study public health. Each recipient will be awarded $1,250, which will be paid to the university that they will attend. The college thanks Mrs. Portia Harrigan of Oyster Global Marketing Group for working so diligently with us in awarding these scholarships. Mr. Liebert, walk back to your seat. Would you please come forward to receive your award? Sorry. Okay, please join me again in congratulating Mr. Jermaine Liebert and Ms. Rebecca Jossel. Our next award is the Faculty of the Year Award. Faculty is the heart of any educational institution. Our faculty have been the bedrock for the success of all 93 of our graduating students. They are the instructional foundation of the success of all students, be they our alumni or be they students that we will have in the future. Collectively, we have about 40 full-time faculty to thank for moving our students to days such as this one. We'll be negligent to not take the time to recognize them. In 2012, when the college reviewed its mission after 20 or so years, and decided to agree on a clear vision for the institution, it also articulated a set of 8 core values. These values, which are agreed upon by the members of the college family, are recognized as the attributes that we expect all our employees to strive toward. We expect them to demonstrate student-centeredness, responsiveness, respect and tolerance, accountability, integrity, and high standards. Last year, we began to use these same values to identify outstanding employees. Each month, we ask everyone to nominate colleagues in various categories who exemplify those values, and they're recognized for that. The peer nomination process, of course, included faculty. Last year and again this year, we made use of the same values and the same nomination process, including nomination by students, to identify a faculty of the year. I'm going to ask Dr. Charles Wheatley, OBE, the chairman of the board, and Dr. Natalia Wheatley, president of the Faculty Association, to announce and to make that presentation. Drs. Wheatley and Wheatley, would you please come to the podium?
Good afternoon. I recognize the protocol already established. It is my honor and privilege to announce that the recipient of the Faculty of the Year Award is Miss Rochelle Smith. Rochelle is a member of my department headed by Dr. Richard Georges, Humanities, Social Sciences, and Communications. I've known Rochelle for quite some time. She graduated now Elmore Stout High School in 1995, and she was quite popular. She was voted head girl, and being an accomplished vocalist myself, I have to congratulate her on being quite the songbird. And Rochelle genuinely cares about the students. Do you all agree? Genuinely cares. And she's always seeking ways to improve as a lecturer. She lectures in Spanish and English. And she's always looking at websites to find different websites to help students, supporting materials. And I would just like to say I'm extremely proud of her, and I know that she's going to continue to do a good job for the students, and she's a true representative of the faculty. And I congratulate you, Ms. Rochelle Smith.
Surprised that Rochelle is a Faculty of the Year, well deserving. I will now ask three of the people with the responsibility of ensuring that this college serves this purpose for which it was intended, that we make the best use of our financial, capital, and human resources that are available to make tertiary education of the highest quality that are available and the highest quality and relevance to the BVI. They make sure that we have the necessary structures, policy framework, and other infrastructure to make sure that students succeed. We thought it fitting that these persons share a few remarks, especially to our graduates. Our Premier, Dr. the Honorable D. Orlando Smith, will bring greetings to the class. He will be followed immediately by our Minister for Education and Culture, Honorable Myron V. Walwin, and then by the chairman of the HLSCC Board of Governors and President Emeritus, Dr. Charles H. Wheatley, OBE.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I'd like to recognize the protocol established, but say good afternoon to all the students here this afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. Also, I must recognize my colleagues from the House of Assembly, Ms. Ingrid Moses, the Speaker of the House, and all the ministers and other members of the House of Assembly, and of course, Ms. Archibald at the head table here, and the Minister of Education, who's responsible for the college, the Honorable Remy Baldwin, of course, Dr. Charles Whitley, and all the faculty. It's my pleasure to be here to share in the joy of families, friends, and educators as we celebrate the 2018 graduates of the HLSCC Stout Community College this afternoon. I wish to thank Dr. Janet Smith for the invitation to speak to the graduates for a few moments as they prepare for an even larger step in life. My message, graduates, is simple. Think ahead, but plan now. By this I mean, do not wait until you get there. Envision in your mind what your future looks like, and then actively take the necessary steps to get there. I will talk first about how we can think ahead, then I'll transition to how we can plan now. So come with me and let's think ahead a little bit. When you made the bold decision to get tertiary education, the first thing you thought about was you need a degree, right? And I'm sure that there were several reasons that motivated your decision. For some of you, it might be that you want to develop professionally and enhance your skills. For others, it may be that you wanted to be an example for your children. Maybe you envision yourself a higher salary or position, or perhaps you want to be an inspiration to your family as the first to achieve such a milestone. Regardless of what led you here, you began this journey with that end in mind. You were thinking ahead. So now I know that you are people who think futuristically. After all, you're here today. I challenge you now to ask yourselves, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? As you think ahead, here's something I'd like to pitch to you because the BVI of tomorrow is in your hands. The world has been moving steadily, and the course has been leading to emerging technologies. This is where the world is headed, where technology is defining the direction, the shape, the pace of the economy and its development. We are seeing technology being integrated into education, business and finance, and even in our agriculture. I ask the question, where do you fit in? In the business and finance sector, we are seeing a significant increase in the demand for financial technology, where you conduct business on your mobile phone and engage in activities like mobile banking. Regarding our trade and business sector, up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the world are using technologies such as 3D printing to bring their products to life. What do you want to do? What about the future in the agricultural sector? Following Hurricanes Irma and Maria, the issue of food production reared its head as a key concern for our territory. No more than ever, we are seeing ways in which emerging technologies are driving fundamental shifts in the evolving agribusiness. I ask again, where do you fit in as you think ahead? In this territory, the opportunities are bountiful in all sectors of this economy, from tourism and construction to computers and even the public service leadership. Innovation and economic growth are in your hands. That is a huge responsibility, but it's a responsibility for which your education here at the HLSCC will have prepared you. I know that you're strong men and women who will succeed at whatever you put your energies to. I know this because you will have needed that strength to juggle your many responsibilities as you attend the classes. So now let us look at how we can make it happen and plan now to get where we want to be later. I want you to look around, see what is missing based on your interests, and take an active step and fill that void using the skills that you have. In doing so, keep an open mind and tailor your next steps to the BVI you want to see. Never stop learning. Continue to research and learn about what the world is doing, and think about what you can do, how you can adapt, how you can add new or make better. You have the aptitude, endurance, and the capability. And I know this because the advantage is here in your presence here this afternoon. I encourage you to stay on the top of your game, read widely, Read outside your comfort zone. Stay aware so you can scope out innovative opportunities. Yes, I do know that the internet is making the world smaller, but what can we do to make service more convenient for each other? What can we do to make service in the BVI better? I want you to reach across to people of different faiths and different nationalities. Share ideas and listen to the ideas of others and build on them. Get in the habit of attending workshops, seminars, and conferences to learn and develop more and to network as much as possible. Graduates, the reality is this: it all starts with you. You are the architect of change. You will decide the direction in which this society goes. So today I ask you to bring that experience out of the classroom. Think ahead, but plan now. You may be small in numbers, but the impact of your actions could lead to an even bigger future for the BVI. Your future depends on what you do with your present. What you do today will have an impact on your tomorrow. You are the future of the British Virgin Islands, graduates. Congratulations, and thank you for dedicating yourselves to success. Thank you.
Yes? Good. Thank you. The appropriate recognitions have already been made. Therefore, it should be sufficient for me to say good afternoon to everyone. But even though that is the case, I still have to be respectful and recognize the Premier and Minister of Finance and also all my colleagues of the House of Assembly. Graduates, please allow me to first offer my congratulations to you for your perseverance and dedication to the completion of this level of your education. I want to thank you as well on a personal note for deciding to stay and complete this part of your tertiary education here at HLSCC under very difficult circumstances brought on by the devastating effects of last year's disasters. I know firsthand that the environment was not what you were accustomed to. We had a myriad of issues that compromised the learning environment for you, and I am sure you have heard this before: what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Today, I'm sure that each and every one of you are stronger mentally now than you have ever been before. And I ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for sticking it out here at HLSCC. I must recognize and thank the Board of Governors, headed by Dr. Charles Whitley, along with the President, the faculty and staff of this institution, for their very hard work over the past academic year. All of you must be commended for your tireless efforts and devotion to ensuring that our students were able to continue their education in very short order following Hurricane Irma. The 93 persons receiving degrees and certificates today are indeed the rewards of your labor, and on behalf of the government and the people of the Virgin Islands, please accept our sincere gratitude. I want to pause here to say a very special thank you to Dr. Janet Smith, who will be leaving us at the end of July. Dr. Smith has worked with this college in varying capacities since its inception, culminating in being the president for the last 2 years and also being a very good driving force behind the accreditation for the institution. We thank you for your hard work and diligence, Dr. Smith. And I want to ask all of us if we can stand. Please stand and give Dr. Smith a round of applause for her contribution to the development of this institution. I believe we can do a little better than that. Give Dr. Smith a round of applause for her contribution to this institution. Thank you very much. As we are all aware, the Virgin Islands is in a much different place than it was due to the ravages of the hurricanes of 2017. Life has changed in one way or another personally for each of us. The way of doing things has also changed. The government has lost significant revenue due to the destruction of many hotels and guest houses. Many persons have lost their jobs, particularly those jobs that are in the tourism-related field. Many persons have lost their home and are still battling with the insurance companies to get a fair settlement. The infrastructure of our country was severely damaged. We had a significant blow to our financial services industry by the passage of the Sanctions and Anti-Money Laundering Bill that was passed recently in the United Kingdom Parliament. And if that was not enough, even the very seaweed want to take us over. But I believe strongly in the Virgin Islands and the people of the Virgin Islands. And even though the challenges that we face may seem insurmountable, they are not. You see, there are opportunities that exist in every challenge that we face. And one of the opportunities that we have been presented with is that second chance to rebuild our country and make it a better place to live and to work. And there's a role that each of you graduates have to play in achieving this. Countries that are prosperous derive their prosperity primarily from one of two things, or in some cases, both. The first is that they possess large amounts of natural resources, such as oil, gold, or diamonds that continue to stimulate their economy. I don't think we have any of these things in the Virgin Islands, but if you know where to find some, please advise me so I could change my profession right away. The second thing that prosperous countries do, and they take it very seriously, is investing in their human capital by educating their citizens well. This, I know, has been a major focus for successive governments of the Virgin Islands, and the investment has not failed, as we were able to see the rise of financial services, the rise in the tourism industry, the increase in local entrepreneurship over the years, and the overall involvement of our people in the economic affairs of our country. When the late Hamilton Lavity Stout had the vision for this institution, he understood the importance of having a well-educated people. And he understood the benefits that an institution such as this would lend to the development of the national agenda. As I said before, we are at a different place now, thanks to Hurricane Irma. And now you have a chance, graduates, to put your footprints on the new Virgin Islands. You have a story of struggle and triumph to share with your children, the same way your parents shared their stories with you. Now you have started to leave your footprints by completing this stage of your tertiary education. I've said at every graduation at this institution since becoming the minister, that your education should be used to uplift your country. That education is to be used to explore new ideas that will be needed to develop the Virgin Islands, because without your ideas, there will be no creativity, and there can be no development without creativity. Your education should be a tool that gives you the knowledge, the skills, the techniques, and the information that enables you to know your rights, your duties and responsibilities in our society as well. Your education should expand your vision and your outlook on the world. Your education should also be a tool for social cohesion. And at this point, our society needs social cohesion. According to an article by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, social cohesion is the glue that holds a society together. It is about striving for greater inclusiveness, more civic participation, and creating opportunities for upward mobility. It is built on three key values: social inclusion, where all people must participate on equal footing in the economic, social, and political life of their country; social capital, where there must be trust between the people and the government for a greater sense of belonging; social mobility, where every citizen must have an equal opportunity to get ahead. Social cohesion is not solely the responsibility of a country's citizens, but its government also has a responsibility to foster it through policies that can make a difference, and by engaging all stakeholders of society to jointly address collective action. These Virgin Islands were built by many hands, and we will need all these hands yet again to assist us in rising again, including yours, graduates. Regardless of the differences we may have, I put it to you that we have more in common than we have differences. One of the things we have in common is our love for these Virgin Islands. And that love, if it is genuine love, will cause us to put aside the things that seem to be dividing us and bring us together as one people, because we are indeed one people. We cannot and will not overcome the challenges that we are facing if we do not unite and move forward together. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Graduates, I lay this charge before you this afternoon for your generation to play a major role in helping the Virgin Islands to turn this page. Your education must also see you to new horizons and prepare you for a different world. We in the Virgin Islands, for example, must now begin to look more seriously on how we can diversify our economy. As you've heard me say many times before, TVET must become an important area just as the traditional areas of employment. I must congratulate the college for pushing ahead with this mandate as they work to revitalize that side of education to be offered here. We have a culinary arts center that has trained many of our local chefs, and I continue to look forward to its further development. There are two areas which I must mention. The first is the recent agreement between the college and the Eastern Caribbean Institute of Tourism, where we will develop a niche area to offer training in marine management, boat repairs and maintenance, not only for our people, but for those across the OECS seeking training in that field. This is critical as we build back our tourism sector, and so we will be able to provide labor that is so needed in the marine industry, as sailing is one of our strengths. The second is a mandate which I gave the college immediately after the hurricanes, to develop short courses in order to retool persons who had lost their jobs, among others in the construction and also maritime sectors. I must say thank you to the Governor's Office, who through the FCO commissioned DAI Europe Limited to provide support both financially and in service to the college in developing these short programs in areas such as roofing, masonry, carpentry, diesel and gasoline engine repairs, fiberglass repairs, mast and rigging repairs, among other things. It's important to mention that these areas are being linked to a technical high school, the Virgin Islands School of Technical Studies. And with the entry of an offshore university like the University of Arts, Science and Technology into the territory, it will not only provide further education opportunities for our country in medicine and education, but it will also help to boost our local economy. Graduates, times may be tough. We will not fear, because the investment that we have made in educating our people has proven to be a catalyst for our economy. Each generation must develop in a way that serves its own time and its own needs. Now is the time for your generation to share dividends for the investment that was made in you. We need your fresh minds to develop a different approach to addressing the issues that we face. We need your skill sets and fresh ideas, and we need everyone to utilize their talents towards the recovery of these Virgin Islands. Class of 2018, congratulations on this significant accomplishment on your academic journey. We recognize that we are a community that has gotten this far through constant prayer and an unwavering faith in our Creator, especially through times of adversity. The entire community will continue to pray for you, because we know that the success of this territory depends on your success. May God bless you all, and may God bless these Virgin Islands. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You have heard from the politicians. Now you are going to hear from a non-politician. I say that just to wake you up. I accept the protocol as established. Honorable Premier, I acknowledge you and all the members of the House of Assembly, all the officials of the college, students, parents, visitors, and those of you who are in the graduating class this afternoon. I do not want to be too long, but there are a couple of things I must say. As chairman of the board, first of all, I would like the other members of the board to stand so that you will understand that when I speak, I'm not speaking for myself. So please stand and support me. You see all of those people there and more? They are the people who are responsible for guiding the institution. And I want you to note them very carefully when you meet them, so you can ask them about the institution and learn as much as you can. Thank you very much. Now, you're a very good class. You are a very successful class. You are a strong class, and I can use many other adjectives. And I just want to mention one or two things that I believe help to make you, to give you that characteristic. Our academic year 2017 to 18 has been filled with new and challenging experiences. For instance, just when we were getting ready to start the academic year, the August floods came. Perhaps the most disastrous floods in the history of the BVI, and stopped the August festival and dampened the enthusiasm of our preparatory exercises for the new year. But just when we were trying to overcome those floods, Hurricane Irma descended on the territory with unprecedented vengeance on the 6th of September, and 1 week later, Hurricane Maria swelled the chorus with heavy rains. The challenges from these disasters on the activities of the college changed the course of the college to one of damage control and rehabilitation while preparing for the fall semester. So you could imagine the challenges involved in that. Our first challenge was to provide safe accommodation for employees, and students, and to create an environment conducive to sound instruction. The loss of instructional space and equipment were the two main challenges to overcome. Through many difficulties, toils, and snares, we have persevered to arrive to today's graduation ceremony. And we thank you, the graduating class, for being so patient and so accommodating because of the compromise in our accommodation through the hurricane. The second performance of the college this year has been low-keyed when we compared it with resources and outcomes for the other years. And one of the things that affected our students and employees this was the infestation of mold, which we could not control easily, and which we had to fight to overcome. Again, it put a strain on the college, it put a strain on you as students, but we thank you again for being so cooperative and so understanding that you stayed with us through those difficult times. We have lost some of our senior faculty and staff through the year, and because of that, we have also not been as uplifting and successful in our Phi Theta Kappa activities this year, that prestigious honor society for two-year colleges. We had last year and year before 5-year status, but we have lost that. But I say, I use the motto from the accreditation team, we will rise. So it will return. And you will get back even though you suffered that setback. It was important because many of our students in the past have gained scholarships from that organization, totaling to over $100,000 over a 3-year period. And the third thing I think that helped to make life a little difficult too is our continuing reduction in funding for the college. And this is something that we all have to face and make adjustments. But again, I say, using the same motto, we will rise. To the graduating class now, I say, in spite of all these setbacks, you have arrived to this day, when you can rejoice with your family, your friends, because you have reached this milestone. In spite of the challenges which you experience, your collective performances compare favorably with other classes before you. Okay, it's not the first time that this has happened. One thing you can be sure you cannot melt. The rain will not melt you, so don't worry. All right, we continue. I said your performances are comparable to other classes before you. You have a solid foundation on which you can build your academic careers and your vocations. And for that, we are thankful and congratulate you for remaining steadfast in your pursuits. The experiences you gain will help you to overcome the storms of life which you will encounter. This year, I was looking at some of the speeches given by the speakers at commencement. They call them in the United States, we say graduation, but the same thing. And I read the top 5 as they rated it. And 2 of them struck me, and I want to share one thought from each one with you. The first is given by, and perhaps you know these people better than I do, Abby Wambach, outstanding female soccer player in the United States. She addressed the class at Barnard's College, and she told them this, and I quote, "Make failure your fuel." And she goes on, "Failure is fuel, failure is power. We must embrace failure as our fuel instead of accepting it as our destination." End of quote. I say that, and I mentioned it mainly because in life we do fail sometimes, but failure should be the opportunity for us to go ahead. In the days ahead, you will experience some failures, so take that advice. The second address was by Catherine Switzer. She addressed the class at Syracuse University. Now, in 1967, that's a long time ago, she ran the first female and woman the same. Well, no, because maybe the way they have transgender these days, you got to be careful. You know, right? So she ran the first female marathon in Boston, and she did it to prove that women could do it, because in those days, women were not accepted in collegiate athletics or collegiate sports. So while she was running, one of the officials of the sport ran on the track and tried to rip off her bib, her running bib, which would identify her, because she was a woman. And she said this, and I quote, "I was scared witless and deeply humiliated, but I had to finish the marathon or no one would believe women had the capability and deserved inclusion." And she goes on, "Often it is adversity in your life that gives you the greatest ideas. Sometimes the worst things in your life become the best." End of quote. I mention these quotations to encourage you as you step out into the deep waters of the ocean of life. Use failure and adversity as motivators to achieve greater things. And on a territorial level, I send a message also to our national leaders. Let adversities of the 2017 floods, Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria, be the springboard for building a more just, inclusive, and equitable British Virgin Islands. Now, before I take my seat, I want to say one or two things. First, I want to publicly announce, but that was done by the Honorable Minister of Education, but that's in his capacity as minister. I'm going to do it in my capacity as Chairman of the Board of Governors. Dr. Janet Smith will be leaving us at the end of this academic year, 31st of July. And she has been president of the institution for 2 years and has served the institution in various capacities before that. Dr. Smith, in my capacity, I would like to thank you sincerely for the contributions you have made to this institution over the years. I think your service will always be remembered. You had many challenges, and the challenges were typical challenges of the whole territory this academic year. But you have come through. You are here. So we wish you joy, happiness, and self-fulfillment in all your future endeavors. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to go a little further than the minister said. We will have a new president on the 1st of August, Mrs. Judith Vanterpool. Now, if anybody can tell you about the strength of that little woman, I can. Why? In another life, I had to make decisions which would have affected her future. So I know what I'm talking about. She worked with me for 14 years at this institution when I was president of the institution. So I know what I'm talking about. Mrs. V, as we affectionately call you, I hope you will do what is just, what is right for your people and for the territory. And I wish you well. Now I can sit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Whitley. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for those very kind words. Now, to our speaker for the evening. Some of you know her quite well. I've known her since we were kids. Mrs. V. Inez Archibald is a proud daughter of the Virgin Islands. In fact, she hails from the western end, from which I come. She's an exemplary student of business and theology, a pioneer in private business, a trailblazing public servant, and most importantly, she's a servant of God. Mrs. Archibald is a proud product of the Western community and has led a life that serves as a stellar example of service. She was educated in the Virgin Islands Secondary School, Elmore Stout High School, Rollins College in Florida, and Emory University in Atlanta, attaining degrees with honors in business, economics, and religion. Over a career that has spanned many years, she held posts in the private sector such as manager and chief executive officer of the law firm of J.S. Archibald and Company and managing director of JIPFA Investments Limited and others. Mrs. Archibald is, however, best known for her contribution to public service in the Virgin Islands. Her career is truly demonstrative of one putting country above self. Highlights of decades of public service include the following: member and later chairman of the BVI Public Service Commission, member of the BVI Judicial and Legal Services Commission Board, member of the BVI Income Tax Appeal Board, Speaker of the Legislative Council, and Deputy Governor of the Virgin Islands. In her personal time, our keynote speaker found further opportunities to contribute to the community. She has served as a member of the Family Support Network and a patron of the BVI Diabetes Association. For having served in such a prominent role at the national level, Among other accolades, Mrs. Archibald was appointed a Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, you might know it as CBE, by Her Majesty in 2015. Yet, for all these titles and accomplishments, Mrs. Archibald asserts that her most important role is being a servant of God. She faithfully serves in the Methodist Church in the Caribbean and the Americas. Mrs. Archibald is the wife of Dr. J.S. Archibald, QC, founding member and longtime legal counsel to the board of the H. Levity Stout Community College. She's a mother of 3 adult daughters and has 5 grandchildren. Please help me welcome Mrs. Inez Archibald as a keynote speaker for this 24th graduation ceremony.
Good afternoon. I too acknowledge the protocol that has already been established, and I would, thank you, and I would make special mention of the Honorable Premier, Dr. the Honorable D. Orlando Smith, OBE, and his wife, Mrs. Lorna Smith, OBE, and of course the Honorable Minister for Education and Culture, who sits on the platform. Let me say thanks as well to the president of this institution for her very kind invitation to speak this afternoon. I am reminded of a meeting of the Public Service Commission many years ago, chaired by the late Dr. Macwelling Todman, QC, of which I was a member, and he was talking to a relative of his who had come in to be interviewed for a position, having just graduated from UWI as an engineer. And I will change the name, but he looked at him and he said, "Now, Johnny, what has happened to you is that you have learned how to pass an exam. What you need to do now is go and learn how to be an engineer." What I will share with you this afternoon is inspired by my bio. As I was reviewing it to send it to the college, and of course as I listened to your president just now. When I looked at my bio, I thought, you know, people like you can be in great peril. Those of us who have had the opportunity and the privilege to have a tertiary education and to have served in positions such as I have, can, if we are not grounded into something or someone bigger than ourselves, we can find our feet untethered from the ground. So that inspired me to speak with you, not to you, with you, in the manner in which I will. The second thing that I noticed about my bio was that it lacked a PhD. Now that PhD is in life. And it is true that I do have this bachelor degree from Rollins College, that I have this Master of Arts in Religion from Stetson University, and a Master of Divinity from the Candler School of Theology, Emory University. But this PhD has not yet been awarded. And this PhD program had only one professor. That professor's formal education terminated at the level of the 6th grade. I speak of my father, Captain Evelyn Hodge, who is with us today at 95. And Madam Chair, Madam President, Mr. Chairman of the Board, with your permission, I would like to acknowledge the presence of my father by asking him to stand. Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Now, what did he teach me in this PhD program? One of the things he taught me was to be trustworthy. How did he do that? He took me on a Sunday morning when he was at home, which did not happen very often, because his hard scrabble life was of such that he was either on the ocean pulling a fish pot or casting a net to put some fish in the kitchen for our stomachs. I wouldn't say on the table because in those days there was no table. But that's where he was. Or he was shoveling gravel from Norman Island to take to St. Thomas to build the post office. Or he was in St. Thomas for the proverbial 29 days working at Bournefield, helping to build what is now the Cyril E. King Airport. But when he was home on a Sunday morning, and I think I must have been about 3 or 4, he took me down just past that entrance on the left if you're going west, the entrance that you take to go on to Frenchman's Quay. And just past that, he taught me how to swim. And Daddy would come and he would open his palms, put them under my tummy, and say, "Kick your foot, man, kick your foot." And so I would kick my foot. And then he would say, "You have to move your hands. You have to move your hands." So we did that from Tortola to Frenchman's Quay and back several times. And on one occasion, when I was almost to Tortola, I realized that Daddy was nowhere in sight. And I panicked and I hollered, "Daddy!" And in my 3 or 4-year-old mind, he made 2 strokes and got to me. The water was shallow enough for him to stand, so he stood and opened his 2 hands and put his palms under my tummy and got me to shore. And then he told me this: "I will never let anything bad happen to you." That told me that I could trust my father. And so if he told me to go up on the highest building here right now and jump down and he will catch me, I will do it. And although he's 95 and he may not be able to catch me, he will find enough men in this audience to help him to catch his daughter, because he will never let anything bad happen to me. So he taught me to be trustworthy. When I give my word, I must keep it. I came, as you heard from the president, to the Virgin Islands Secondary School in 1958. Don't try to calculate my age, please. And when I came to town, my mother had not come with me, but Daddy was already working in Rowtown in a place called Cleaning Hole with a bunch of boats. And he lived in a room, as I think about it now, it must have been about 10 by 10. But it was divided in 2 by a curtain. He slept on a cot. And the first night I was with him, he took some clothes and he threw them onto the ground and he said, "You sleep on the cot because you are going to need a good sleep for the studies you have to do." Daddy taught me to be selfless and to make sacrifices when it was necessary. In 1958, 59, 60, there was no regular transportation from West End to Rowtown or from Rowtown to West End. But since my mother was not with us, occasionally on a Friday afternoon, Daddy and I would walk from Rowtown to go home to West End. And he had a ritual. He would go to Honorable Skelton's mother store and buy 2 rolls and 2 red sodas. I didn't know there were strawberry sodas at the time, but that's what they were. And then he would go across the street to J.B. O'Neill, and he would buy 2 pieces of what we called in those days box cheese. And they would wrap it in a piece of wax paper, and we would head west. But Daddy always had a blanket with him. And so when we got to Cox Heath, he would spread the blanket, and we would sit. I didn't know it was a picnic we were having, but it was a picnic. And we would have this soda. Each of us would have a soda and a sandwich, and then we'd go home to my mother. And one Friday afternoon, I noticed that Daddy only had, first of all, I saw him taking out 2 enamel cups out of his bag. And I thought, well, what is this? And then I realized he had 1 soda, 1 roll, and 1 piece of cheese. So he made the sandwich, broke it, gave me half, he kept half. He poured half of the red soda into 1 cup and half in the other cup, and we had our little picnic. But while I was eating, I said to him, but Daddy, how come you only have 1 today? And he said to me, I didn't have enough money to buy 2. Now you have to realize the soda was 10 cents, the roll was 2 cents, the cheese was 10 cents, we're talking 22 cents. Less than a quarter. And I did not believe my father, but I did not have the courage to tell him, I don't believe you, because I felt it would have been disrespect. So we got home to West End, and my father promptly took his bag, took out 1 soda, 1 roll, and 1 piece of cheese, and he gave it to my mother. So I said, Daddy, I thought you said, and he didn't let me finish. He said, I wanted you to learn contentment. And it was the single occasion on which he verbalized that he was teaching me anything. Friday nights, as I got a little older in town, some friends of mine always had a party downtown, Rotown. And Daddy would sit by the door when I'm leaving, and he said, well, now look at his watch, it's now 7 o'clock, and remember you have to be back here by 10 o'clock. But it got to be a little embarrassing because, you know, when I'm leaving to go home for 10 o'clock, some of my other friends are just coming to the party. So one night, I decided I'm going to trick my father. I dilly-dallied around the house, and then when it was time, 9:45, I said, well, I'm leaving at 9:45, so he's not going to tell me to come back at 10 o'clock. When I was leaving, I said, well, Daddy, I'm leaving. He says, yes. He looked at his watch, and he said, well, it's 9:45, I expect you to come back here for 10 o'clock. So I said, but Daddy, it's going to take me 15 minutes to get to this party, so I can't get back to the house at 10 o'clock. He says, well, you have decided that you were going to wait here until 15 minutes before 10, so you will have to learn to take responsibility for your decisions. And so I promptly went back into my room, took off my clothes, and went into my bed. Now, we're fast forwarding some. I am married, and my husband has been recalled to St. Kitts to his post of Director of Public Prosecutions, but I'm pregnant. So the question then became, am I going to go with my husband to St. Kitts, or am I going to remain behind, have the baby, and then go to St. Kitts to live? We agreed that I would stay on, so I went back to my parents' house and to my bedroom that I had left when I married him. And my doctor was in St. Thomas, Jamaican, Dr. MacDonald. And Daddy, to this day, if you sleep in his house, he will come at 5 o'clock in the morning on his toes. You will not hear him coming. He walks like a cat. And he will have a cup of tea, and he will say, you sleep well, you wake up, I bring you tea. So he came that morning that I was to go to St. Thomas to my doctor, and he put my cup of tea down. And when I thought he had left, I heard another knock on my door. And I said, come in, and it was that he says, mind you, I'm just reminding you that the boat is leaving at 6 o'clock. I said, yes, Daddy, I know. So I got up and I got myself dressed, and I got to the Roadtown jetty 1 minute past 6. And the youth of Tortola, which was the name of the vessel, had left the jetty and it was sailing out of the harbor. And the mate on the boat, Granger Jennings of blessed memory, who knew me well, was standing up on the stern doing me. I knew what he was saying. He was saying, girl, I tried to get Cap to wait, but he wouldn't wait. So when Daddy came home that evening, I said, Daddy, you left me. He said, yes, I know. I said, but I was only 1 minute late. He said, but it's not about you. It's about my word. When I give my word, I have to keep my word. I told the passengers this boat was going to leave at 6. So the boat had to leave at 6. He was totally unapologetic. And then he said to me, it's about respecting other people's time. You cannot impose yourself into people's time. You don't know what their schedules are. So if you have something to do it on time. Now, Daddy, a very distinguished young professional, did some work for our family. And after 2 months, we had not received a bill. So I went to him to get the bill. And he asked me, did I tell you that I had a bill for you? And I said, no, but you worked. I saw you working. He says, well, I don't have a bill. I said, well, I don't understand. He said, ask your father. So I went to Daddy, who was sitting on the porch, and I told him what the gentleman had said. I said, can you think of any reason why he wouldn't have a bill for us? So he was sitting on the porch in a chair with his feet elevated, and his cap on. He took off his cap and he scratched his head and he said, man, I don't know if it's because when I used to sail the boat, their mother was working in St. Thomas and she used to come and bring their lunch. And when the boat got to the jetty at 12 o'clock, they would be there. But he said sometimes she was a little late, you know. Sometimes she was a little late and I couldn't wait because I had to bring the passengers on time. So when I get to the wharf in Rotown, they're there looking up at me, poor thing. And all I could do is push my hand in my pocket and give them some money, tell them, go buy some bread and cheese and get a drink because your mother was a little late today and I couldn't wait. And then he put back on his hat, he took it off again and he scratched his head and he said, I don't see that's no big deal, that's what you're supposed to do. My father taught me compassion. And then another boat story, we were coming from St. Thomas. This time we were on the Tortola Sunshine, which looked to me like an upstairs house. It was higher to me than it was long. And it was rough. Some place called Stephen Turning, it was rough. And I saw Granger coming and he was holding on to one chair here and one chair here. He couldn't even get to me, it was so rough. He shouted, your father sent me for you. And we managed, by the grace of God, to get up into the wheelhouse. And when I got there, Daddy said, you frightened? I said, yes, Daddy. He said, it's rough. You see, it's rough, right? I said, yes, Daddy. He says, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull down the throttle until the engine stops. And when the engine stops, this boat is going to roll and roll and roll and roll. But don't worry, Daddy is right here. Now, I have to tell you that I believed then, and I have no doubts now, that God forbid that boat had gone down. My father would have given his life trying to save mine. Daddy, I thank you and I love you. Daddy was the messenger for the country. Took the mail, J.R. O'Neill, H.R. Penn, J.W. Georges bought their money in a canvas bag with a zipper at the top and a little lock. Daddy put it in the bank in St. Thomas, and he brought back the bag with a slip. And if there was nobody to meet him, he brought it to the house. But that bag was not going to sleep in his house that night. He was going to walk until he found somebody to give it to. And I said, Daddy, what are you doing that for? You don't put the money in the bank, just... He says, I know, but you have to handle other people's money more carefully than you handle your own. And he would walk and walk and walk until he found somebody to give that back to. He always had 10 or 12 pieces of strings. Somebody would come and say, Mr. Hodge, you could go to the batter store and buy a pair of shoes for my daughter or my son or for me. But they measure the feet with a piece of twine or a little piece of ribbon. And Daddy would go and he'd come in the afternoon with boxes and boxes and boxes of batter shoes. Meanwhile, we in the house asked him to buy something, but he hasn't brought it. And when he said, well, Daddy, what happened? He said, well, you know they needed it more than you need yours. And you have to put other people before yourself. Daddy was entitled, in fact still is, to a benefit under a will. I asked him some time ago, I said, Daddy, you got your benefit? He said, no. I said, well, why? He said, I don't know. I said, you're going to do anything about it? He said, no. You don't see the people dying and going. You see anything in their hand, you always go into a funeral, you see anything in their hand when they go in. So why should I harass myself about a little money and a little piece of land that I didn't get? You know what that taught me? Perspective. Perspective. Premier talked with you about planning now and executing later. And it is so important. Sometimes what is in front of us is so heavy and hard that we forget. It totally consumes us. I know. It totally consumes us. And we forget the long view. We need to try to remember that life has a long view. Now, I recognize that not everybody in this graduation class or in this audience, for that matter, has a father like mine. It's not new. I was leading a colloquy class at the M University, and we were discussing 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. See what manner of love the Father has bestowed on us. And one of the students in the class went totally berserk, totally a red-headed white fellow with freckles in his face. He just blew up. I don't want to hear anything about Father. And the other class members got discombobulated. I said, no, just let him talk. So he talked and told us a story of unspeakable abuse by his father. And so I suggested to him, do you know anybody in your community who might be a father figure to you? And he told me, yes, he does. And so I said, you might want to have a conversation with that person. Or you may not even need to talk. You just need to watch, because I was thinking of Daddy. I was watching him all my life. And I don't think he knew I was watching him. He never one day sat down with a Bible at a desk and said, well, now the Bible says this or that. He just lived it. He just lived it before me. Now, I have shared those values with you. I believe they are timeless, and I believe that they are broadly applicable to the 10 nationalities that this class represents. So you have every right to ask me, well, Mrs. Archibald, you have shared those with us. How are you doing with them? That's a fair question. So let me answer you honestly. Sometimes I feel like I'm singing forever. Tell me the story often, for I forget so soon. The early dew of morning has passed away at noon. So I'm not doing as well as I would like. But if you are on a journey, and life is a journey, may I, class of 2018 of the HLSCC, I have not arrived. I'm still on the journey. May I invite you to join me?
I had no doubt whatsoever that you would not be disappointed. That you would be disappointed. You know, Mrs. Archibald and I talked a little bit about when I asked her to be a speaker about the storms and the impact that it had had on virtually everyone. I thought it was important for our graduates to be reminded of some things. You know, we talk about building better, building stronger, building any number of things I've heard, building bigger. And it occurred to me that what we also needed to do in that building process was to be sure that we had a very firm foundation on which to build. And I heard a lot of things, and I hope you heard what I heard. Things like basic values such as trustworthiness, selflessness, contentment, responsibility, respect for others, compassion, financial accountability, putting other people first, and perspective. Those were the kind of things that I heard. So I hope you will, in fact, take her quite seriously, in fact, join her on that journey. And as a token of our appreciation, something really simple, but I think you hold it quite there. And it's just said, Mrs. Inez V. Inez Archibald, CBE, keynote speaker, HLSCC graduation exercise 2018, and simply with our gratitude, because gratitude, in fact, is one of those that while she didn't say it, you can hear it through everything she said. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, HLSCC Jazz Ensemble, for that wonderful rendition. Thank you to all our speakers thus far. We now proceed to the part of the program that our graduates have been patiently waiting for, the presentation of candidates, awarding of certificates, and conferring of degrees. Vice President Mrs. Judith Vanterpool will introduce this portion of the proceedings with a few introductory remarks.
The protocol has been established, so I will save time by saying good afternoon and welcome to everyone. Especially you, the graduating class of 2018. You are very special to HLSCC because you have been with us through a very trusting, a very tiring, a very adventurous year, 2018. Gava Tully, an educator and computer scientist, rightly says for you, persistence and resilience only come from having been given a chance to walk through difficult problems. May I read that again in your hearing? Persistence and resilience only come from being given a chance to walk through difficult problems. Class of 2018, I submit that if you have made it through the last 8 months and are able to sit here proudly clad in green gowns, you have made it through some difficult challenges. Having spoken to some of you personally, I am familiar with some of those challenges. I know that some of the challenges have not gone away, but if you sit here today, we know that you know how to go through challenges. I have witnessed as Vice President your persistent and resilient efforts to overcome these challenges. Gava talked about your persistence and your difficulties. I highlight a few for you today. Inconsistent connectivity at home. And I don't just mean the internet. Families were divided. But you came here to HLSCC, and we couldn't do too very well with the internet either. But we tried to offer you a family. You came to campus when you know that our roofs were off. You came to campus when our computers were down. But you came. Some of you brought your own internet boxes and you shared them with others. That is what I called your persistence. You completed your homework. The speaker, Mrs. Archibald, connected you with the past. But I said to you, Mrs. Archibald, Alma has taught our young people to connect as well. They did their homework by flashlight, trying to concentrate with the drone of a generator in the background. That's another difficulty. They maintained a positive attitude and a willingness to learn in less than comfortable environments here at the college. They're fanning today, but this is not the real fan. In fact, they have learned how to fan. I'm glad to see y'all still knowing how to fan. That is what we call resilience. But you know, if I may tell you something, you are not alone in the show of persistence and resilience. I said that we offered you a family. And that family that we offered you is our able family of instructors. They worked tirelessly. They worked honestly. They worked diligently. They would come to my office and give me a little fuss up butt, a little tap on the shoulder and say, we will rise. Today, your experiences from Hurricane Irma and Maria have taught you lessons, class of 2018. These lessons have prepared you to move on to the next stage in your life. We will continue to maintain contact with you. So we ask you to go and find your next step in your life. But please, don't leave HLSCC. Remember us and remember our struggles and remember our goals and remember the faculty who stayed with you. Give honor where honor is due. Yes, class of 2018, you have passed through a very difficult time and you should relish in your success today. But I caution you, the persistence and resilience you have developed here to prepare you for wherever life takes you next is not the end. The speaker said to you that she's still on a journey and you have just joined her. I want you to take that seriously. Life is a journey and it never ends until you expire. I caution you as well that you must take back your learning to your workplace. Not only to make $1, but share the values that HLSCC holds dearly. We want you to take with you forgiveness. We want to take with you, we want us to take with you, for a letter word, love. Love even when it's difficult to love. Y'all got that one? That's what we want you to take with you as well. We want you to take your new skills, not just to the workplace, but for those of you who are transferring, remember that you're going to have more difficult courses. You're going to have to spend more difficult times. And aloneness can creep in and say, I'm going home. But you can't come home. We don't want you back until you have completed that part of your journey. Currently, the college offers certificates of achievement comprising of 15 credits and the associate degree comprising of a minimum of 60 credits. You have done well. You can tap yourselves on the shoulders and say, I have done well today, on the 28th of June. Some of them are clapping. But I still have a long way to go. Faculty, I cannot leave unless I thank you for being that family here for those students when they had no one. I respect you for that. Thank you. I now invite the registrar and dean to present the candidates for graduation as noted in the program of the day.
I too recognize the protocol and wish all a pleasant good afternoon. Would the candidates for the certificates of achievement please rise?
Nigel Cooper. Tashana R. Roper. Marjorie Flores. Jeffrey Carlwood.
The faculty, registrar, and deans, all certify that each of the persons named have completed all the requirements for their program of study and recommended each one for the award as noted in today's program.
Would all the candidates for the associate degrees please rise? President Smith, I have the honor of presenting to you and this assembly the candidates for the college's associate degrees. The faculty, registrar, and deans all certify that each person will be named has completed all the requirements for their program of study and recommend each one for the award as noted in today's program. Would Marshall Skelton bring the candidates forward to receive their Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, and Associate of Applied Science degrees forward to receive their awards and collective congratulations.
Hajera Alfonso. Kimberly Cordes. Sylvia Gilbert. Carlton Morton. Irichelle Paul. Andrea Ligier. To Marge Thomas, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa. Nicola Noel. Kayleen Maduro. Jeremy Liebert. Jasmine Johnson. Ayana James, provisional member, Phi Theta Kappa. Kitana Horton. Dion Henry. Lornique Green. Lillian Alfonso. Lenroy Grant. Esther Graham. Marvik Kriki, cum laude. Yukari Brown. Keisha O'Neill, provisional member, Phi Theta Kappa. Sabrina Perry, provisional member, Phi Theta Kappa. Jaikaran Persad, provisional member, Phi Theta Kappa. Carlifa Pierre, associate in science, business administration, and business administration, hotel management. Alexia Potter. Kyra Powell. Idrisia Richards. Kayana Tasia Skelton, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa, associates in science in business administration and business administration accounting. Daniela Smith. Kiana Smith. Evadne Stevens. Kewana Barnes. Verna Smith, associate in science, business administration, accounting, and small business administration. Annalisa Ramloshan, associate in science, business administration, accounting, finance, and small business administration. Kimberly Jardine. Stacy Christopher Smith, associate in science, business administration, accounting, finance, and small business administration. Stacy Ann Bob. Keita Williams. Tanisha Todd. Wade K. Tobin. Andrea Titley. Ranisa Scott. Cave Penn, Phi Theta Kappa. Don Andre Millwood. Brittany Stout. Chavanice Cameron. Dylan Henry. Nicoy Hendrickson, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa. Camise Penn. Dandra Vanterpool, Associate in Science, Business Administration, Finance, Certificate of Achievement, Supervisory Management. Shona Bertrand. Ardith Herbert. Marlene Woodley. Jaden Headlam, Provisional Member, Phi Theta Kappa. Rashid Jennings. Rinaldo Scatliff. Jared Olive. Tiana Alfonso. Emmanuel Borocchini, summa cum laude, recipient of the President's Award for the highest grade point average. Zoya Etienne, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa. Mikwa Basu. Latasia Bennett, Provisional Member, Phi Theta Kappa. Gidget Hodge. Jermaine Liebert, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa, Associate in Science, Natural Science, and Certificate of Achievement, Foreign Language. Nicoy Stout, Associate in Science, General Studies, Biology, Natural Science, and Certificate of Achievement, Foreign Language, Student Respondent, Class of 2018. Selena Stout. Mertlan Gordon. Shaquille Emtage. Adlai Mead. Rafiki Pope. Myron Williams, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa. Joseph Wells, Provisional Member, Phi Theta Kappa. Kajai Roberts. Shondi Williams. Desnique Collins. Khadijah Roberts, cum laude, Phi Theta Kappa. Khadijah Rochester. Shanae Smith. Brianna Thomas, Associate in Science, Business Administration, Accounting, Finance, and Small Business Administration. Okizi Weeks, Provisional Member, Phi Theta Kappa. Hannah Bridgewater, cum laude.
Okay, you're all standing. Reviewing the recommendations of the college's faculty, your deans, and by virtue of the authority granted to me by the Board of Governors of the H. Levity Stout Community College, I hereby award you the degree for which you qualify, whether that degree is a Certificate of Achievement, an Associate of Arts degree, an Associate of Science degree, or an Associate of Applied Science degree. We all extend to you our sincerest congratulations on this very significant achievement. Okay, this next step brings us to the last act you will perform in your quest to earn a certificate or degree from the college. This symbolic act transitions you from being a candidate for a certificate or degree to being a graduate and an alumni of the H. Levity Stout Community College. After this act, however, I ask that you continue to remain standing. Graduates, it gives me great pleasure to instruct you to move your tassels from the right to the left side of your cap. Okay, there's one last request I wish to make of you. The work that you have required for the work that was required for you to get where you are today was significant on your part primarily, but also on the part of your family who supported you, the faculty who taught you, and everyone else who helped you achieve the goal toward which you came to the college. In life, though, every accomplishment comes with privileges and obligations. You now have an obligation to yourself to maintain the currency of your degrees and certificates by continuing your education and by keeping your skills up to date through courses that might be available to you, whether here or elsewhere, whatever your field. More so, you each have a privilege of providing those who come after you with the opportunity to attend an institution with fewer of the faults than you left it, and more of the attributes that have added to your growth as a person, as a professional, and as a contributing member of whatever community you find yourself in. I now, therefore, invite you, as you stand before other alumni who are in this space, your family, friends, and this community, to receive a traditional induction as an HLSCC alumni. I invite other HLSCC alumni to join us as well. You are now officially recognized as an alumni of the H. Levity Stout Community College. Your lifelong connection to this institution continues through your active participation in the HLSCC Alumni Association, whether on Tortola, Virgin Gorda, or in any body or community where you may find a community of HLSCC alumni. Welcome to this body of stakeholders that is an integral part of the HLSCC family. We have elected, this is our first official alumni association, I want you to know, so you're trailblazers in that respect. And our president for the association is Nicoy Stout. The vice president is Andrea Laguerre, and the secretary is Kayana Skelton. I wish each of you success, happiness, and Godspeed. You may sit.
I now invite Mr. Keith Casery, who will introduce our student respondent.
Good afternoon. I acknowledge the protocol that was established earlier. It is my great pleasure this afternoon to say a few words about your student respondent for the class of 2018. I've known Mr. Stout during his entire stay here. He's an ambitious and very respectful student. I remember on all occasions wherever we came into contact, he never hesitated to say hello. Additionally, he remained a diligent student and was always maintained a positive and cheerful demeanor. He is very serious about his studies, and it is not surprising that today he's graduating with 2 science degrees, one in biology and the other in natural science. He's also receiving a certificate in achievement in foreign language. Mr. Stout didn't only excel in his academic pursuit. He realized from early that he has other interests. He was an active and reliable member of the Environment Club, where he participated in many college and community activities. It is my pleasure, and I would like you to join with me as we welcome Mr. Stout to hear his important message to you this afternoon. So please give a round of applause as we welcome Mr. Stout to the
It is a very exciting good afternoon. I acknowledge all those who are recognized and present. Now, let's get down to some real talk. I'm calling it a talk because that is what my fellow graduates prefer to hear, and not a long drawn-out speech. Well, I guess we made it. I don't know about you guys, but I feel I was at this college for way too long. From the week of my first semester, I was tired and wanted to go home. Work can't done. Teachers buzzing in your ears talking about if we brought in homework. Homework? So what do we have class time for? The routines of our college lives were tiring and at times stressful. But that's probably how it will be in our careers as well. Some days we go weary and want to call in sick, even when not a thing is wrong with us. We'll have to meet deadlines if we want to keep our jobs, and we may have to also do work at home. Nobody ever said life would be easy. And as graduating adults, yes, don't let the milk in my and others' faces fool you. We will have responsibilities and expectations. Do your best and then some more. Always present an image of yourself that promotes only positivity. Nobody likes group projects when teacher wants to put you with everybody but your friend. Truth is, you will have to work with people time and time again because businesses can rarely work off the contribution of only one person. So be a team player. Everybody likes a team player. And remember, PTA meetings were left in high school, so try not to mess up and get sent home and broke. Success is a goal that should be achievable by anyone with ambition. According to Michelle Montano, happiness is the measure of my success. I will have achieved success when I positively impact our environment for the better. Maybe your success is buying out the rounds at the bar and still being able to pay your light bill at the end of the month. Whatever your definition of success is, be sure to plan your life to head towards it. Also, know that the journey to success is not a race, but will happen at your own pace. Mind your moves at your own speed, and don't try to overtake people, because you might end up in a Tartolian pothole. And we all know how those are. Realize that your clock ticks differently from everyone else's, and that accomplishments are personal. Achieve and stunt in your own time, because you may just do it better than the person you thought was ahead of you. And now for a lengthy vote of thanks on behalf of my graduating class. We thank the teachers who worked with us when our grades weren't looking too pleasant. We thank the librarians for redirecting us when we couldn't print for many possible reasons. We thank the students who used their data so we could use the already slow internet to post and watch snaps. We respect the workers in the fiscal department who gave us a break on payments, because things are always rough with your pockets when you are a student in school. We appreciate the bus drivers who charge us $2 to get to and from the college, and who dropped us up the stretch to the main building instead of along the road. We don't like the ones who didn't do none of those things. And last but not least, we thank whoever made it possible for the air conditioning to be fixed and working in the auditorium. So we truly missed it these past few years. We didn't get to use it, but thanks anyway. As graduates, there will be no more hanging out in the lounge or on the stone wall, and no more asking around to see what the CAF have on any given day. But starting immediately, there will be a lot of negotiating raises, accepting scholarships, and taking plane flights, because all of us up there now. And with that being said, felicidades a la clase de 2018, or congrats to the class of 2018. We live like when you first got current after Oma. I look forward to being given a ride when any of you see me along the road. Thank you for not sleeping on me. I gone here.
Thank you, Mr. Stout, for that nice talk. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise, as it's my pleasure to invite Miss Andrea Laguerre, student from our Virgin Goddess Center, and now 2018 graduate, to give the benediction. Everyone, please rise.
Let us pray. Dear God, as we leave this evening as the graduating class of 2018, be with us in safety and guidance. May we use what we learn as a benefit to others as we carry on this journey of life. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Laguerre. The graduation ceremony is now officially concluded. We ask that you please remain standing as we recess.
Drop him in, drop him in. Drop him in, drop him in. Let me in. Let me close pin them. Close to the pin. All I have, your pump and circumstance and God save. I need pump and God. Thank you, brother.